Hello and welcome to Biology Career Insights, the podcast where we talk with experts from the field of biology to gain valuable insights into their careers and explore ways to navigate the job market in this ever evolving field. I'm your host, Dr. Manish Kumar. Today, we are excited to introduce Dr. Stephanie Dobersch, a distinguished postdoctoral researcher specializing in cancer research and bioinformatics. With over 4 years of experience, Dr. Dobersch is currently based at the Fred Hutchinson Cancer Center in Seattle, focusing on pancreatic cancer. Her academic journey includes roles as an assistant lecturer in Germany and a research intern at Harvard Medical School. Dr. Dobersch serves on the editorial board for Frontiers in Pharmacology, showcasing her commitment to advancing scientific knowledge. Her PhD in natural sciences conducted under Professor Guillermo Barreto resulted in impactful publications, contributing significantly to the field of lung cancer epigenetics. Recognized for her excellence, Dr. Dobersch has received prestigious fellowships and awards, including the Walter Benjamin Postdoctoral Fellowship, sponsored by the German Research Foundation. As a member of the American Association for Cancer Research, she actively contributes to the scientific community. We are honored to host Dr. Stephanie Dobersch today, gaining insights into her remarkable journey, expertise, and the latest development in cancer research. Welcome, Dr. Dobersch.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Amazing. So tell us what inspired you to pursue a career in science and how did you get started in the field?
Yeah, I know it's kind of not probably the traditional way, because in school, like in early school, I was very bad in biology. Like I didn't understand it. It didn't make sense to me. I couldn't learn it, and I was just like one of the subjects that you don't really want to do because they're hard. And but then I had like towards more like the end of my high school time, I got two amazing teachers in biology, and they explained it very well in a way that I got very interested. I got very curious about all of the mechanism, like I mean before mitosis and meiosis was like what, like but then like, oh, it makes sense, and like, oh, you need this to like produce more cells, or like or like for um yeah, anything alive basically. And so I got very interested. I got very focused on biology, and it's trying to understand as much as I can. And then I thought, wow, it's a really, really cool field. Like, and there's so much that we can still learn about it. So I went and said, okay, I'm gonna study biology. Like I do my bachelor in biology, but then I was mostly interested in human biology. But like there was just a limited amount on universities that would offer human biology as a study option. And so unfortunately, I couldn't get into uh, human biology or like human biology classes. But then I was talking to one of the study coordinators in one of the favorite universities I wanted to go. And she's like, well, like you should look at the University of Gießen. So they do have a very heavy focus point on human biology, even though they call it biology. And then once you are like in higher semesters, we have some people that would transition to human biology to our facilities, and it's very easy for them to do. And so I thought, okay, so I'm gonna try this, and I got into the University of Gießen to study biology. And during the time like I was studying, I got also very interested in plant physiology. Like I was so interested in like how plants, are built, and like how they have evolved, and how smart actually I mean, you can't really say how smart they are, but like how well they have evolved during evolution. And so then I went to I did an internship. I think it was like towards the end of my bachelor, no, like, I think more like in the middle of my bachelor, we had to do like an internship. So I went to the Max Planck Institute in Gaume, that's close to Berlin. So it was a specific institute for molecular, yeah, exactly, Potsdam. And it was a very interesting institute. So they were focused on molecular plant physiology. I did there my internship. I was very interested. It was very interesting, but I felt like, I mean, even though I'm very interested, I feel like I can't do much with working in plant physiology. I mean, there's a whole field of bionic, which is super cool, right? Like you learn from plants how they have developed it, and then you transfer it to like more like yeah, industry, like use their systems to improve housing or like anything. But I was very bad at physics. So I was like, bionic is probably never going to be something that I will be good at. So then the other option, I was like, oh, what? I mean, human biology is still like, I mean, I had this in my mind before. So why not to go more into this direction? So, and then I started looking around because I really liked doing an internship at that Max Planck Institute. So I was looking for a Max Planck Institute that is more focused on human research and would be maybe a little bit more accessible from Gießen, so where I went. And then my professor at the time was like, oh, you know, like there's the Max Planck Institute for Heart and Lung Research, like basically like next town. And so I looked into that, and then I found the laboratory from Guillermo. So he was like at a time more focused on embryonic lung development. So I started to work there as kind of I would say like maybe a lab aide, but also kind of like more like, you know, as an intern to learn the techniques. And then, you know, he offered me to come, hey, I mean, you're doing a really good job. Like, you want to write your bachelor thesis here? So I was like, yeah, I mean, yeah, I want to do it. So, and then this is kind of how it then got introduced into human biology. And even though a lot of things are still like related to mice, but like even mice are very similar to humans, even if you don't want to acknowledge that, but it is a fact. And so and then yeah, like my bachelor's studies were very successful. I got more and more interested. I was like, no, I want to pursue a career in research. I want to get my PhD, and I want to be a scientist. Wow. And so that's kind of like how I came from like someone that didn't even understand what is mitosis and meiosis and what the hell is like everything, to like, oh no, I want to do my PhD, I want to do research, I want to cure cancer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a fantastic journey. And Stephanie, please tell us, our audience, like, when was this transition when you got like, you know, a great inspirational teacher in your school? Was it like at the higher end of the class or during fifth, sixth? When exactly?
So I was more towards, I think it was like 10th grade, I think, like towards like the end. Like, I mean, so I did my Abitur. So I think we had 12 classes, if I remember correctly. Because of course there was a change.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, 12 or 13. Like I was like the one that had longer. I think it was 12, 13 or whatever. So I think I met her like I think grade 10 or 11. I don't know, like towards the end, like at the time where really like you have to make a decision on like where's your career going, what's your path, like what other courses you want to focus in and what do you specialize in. So that's when I met like the first teacher. She was a very young teacher. I think she just finished her university. I think she was kind of like in the testing phase, like, you know, like she's you finish your classes, that's when you're gonna start going to school and like, you know, get your own class and just start. But she did an amazing job. Like she did an amazing job. She made it like so simple, so interesting. And then I was lucky that the next teacher I got, she was amazing too. Like was like two amazing women that really inspired me to just go into like biology and be very interested in that. Yeah.
I mean, I can totally imagine because there are many guests that I talk to, and one of the most common thing is like as you said, it's also the role of teachers is really to inspire. If they can inspire you, they have done their job. So amazing, yeah.
Yeah.
So coming next, could you describe your current role as a researcher and at Fred Hutchinson's, and what do you do? What are your basic responsibilities there? Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm a postdoctoral fellow. So it is after you finish your PhD, you do a short period of 4 to 5 years kind of before becoming either principal investigator or becoming a staff scientist, depending on which path you go. It's kind of a training phase. I think it's called a training phase for becoming a professor. And so in this phase, you're gonna have your own project. So you lead your own project. And you sometimes have the opportunity to mentor like a PhD student, or you can mentor or help of like assistants, like TAs.
Mhm.
So you kind of have not only your own project that you really kind of have to design and move forward. Um, you also like learn more into like interacting with like kind of a smaller team, and then also like how to promote your research, right? You go on conferences, you present your work, you write your paper, but also you get involved into like writing grants.
Mhm.
So it's kind of like the phase to train you to become a PI.
Absolutely. But tell us also more about the kind of work, like you work at in cancer research, right? So
Mhm.
tell us something about the kind of work that you do, like the research work.
Yeah. So I mean, as you have already nicely introduced, I work in pancreatic cancer research.
Mhm.
And so in my part is like well, I give a little bit more background on pancreatic cancer so that it makes a little more sense. So pancreatic cancer is still like a very lethal disease, and like the survival rates are now 12%. So it is still like very, very lethal. And the problem is it's still the incidents are still rising.
Mhm.
And it's becoming in the next couple of years becoming the second most leading cancer, the second leading cause of cancer-related death. So um, the problem with this type of cancer is that we don't really have good treatment options. We don't have really good screening options. And so in the last years, we understood a little bit more about pancreatic cancer because pancreatic cancer has different subtypes. So there is the basal PDA subtype, and then there's the classical PDA subtype. So in the basal PDA, so PDA stands for pancreatic ductal adenocarcinoma, just just like throwing some short words in there. And so the basal PDA is very, very lethal, even worse than the classical PDA, because the basal PDA is very undifferentiated, and the gene expression signature completely drifts away from like the pancreas gene, normal pancreas gene signature. So by knowing this, now people like just in the last probably not less than a decade, people understood that there are these different subtypes of pancreatic cancer. So they're starting to study the different types and what makes them special, and like what could be the vulnerabilities to target these cancers. So this is also like what our laboratory is specialized on. So we have a group of people that work more in a classical PDA subtype, and then there's me and like my PhD student who are more focused on the basal PDA subtype. So because still like basal PDI almost kind of represents like 30% of the cases of PDA patients. So it's still like the rare subtype, and we are still lacking a lot of tools to study, or like even model systems to study the subtype. So we have identified some key factors that seem to play a role in basal PDI. So I started to develop a mouse model that I'm now analyzing and trying to see if it resembles the basal PDA subtype. And then we use these developed models to understand what are they addicted to, like what makes them so special, so we can start targeting these specific proteins or enzymes that drive specific signaling in this PDA subtype. And that's kind of like my role right now. So I have made this mouse model. I'm studying what they are so dependent on. And then now we are kind of in the phase where we go into like preclinical models. So we have a so-called PDX mouse model. So this are patient-derived xenografts. So we got from the clinic or from different organizations tumor chunks from pancreatic cancer patient that will be then implanted subcutaneously into mouse flanks. And then we can start using treatments and see how it affects tumor growth. So that's kind of like my project in a nutshell.
No,
4
no,
years of
amazing,
work in a nutshell.
amazing. And I mean, if I'm not incorrect, I think Steve Jobs also died of pancreatic cancer, right? Or am I?
Yeah.
I mean, I have to recheck.
Yeah, I think that was the case. Yeah, pancreatic cancer is, if you talk with like people like around, like at least one person in the family or friend circle that kind of was suffering from pancreatic cancer, and they all agree like once they're diagnosed, it's there's not much time left. It's unfortunately, yeah. So so that's why we definitely need to work on pancreatic cancer.
Absolutely. And that's why I say I think it's a very impactful kind of research that you are doing. And I know, talking about impact, you also do, a lot of work through Keletics, which is a blog for nutrition and stuff. And I know you're passionate about it. So could you tell us, something about how you started this blog and how did you make it successful? Tell us more about Keletics.
Yeah. So I started Keletics during my towards the end of my PhD, because I got very interested in how to improve nutrition or how to become more efficient and healthier, even though you have a very demanding job, right? I mean, everybody is now like under time pressure, like working a lot. And so I was very curious about like, hey, what can we improve in our nutrition? How can we improve our sleep, or like how can we improve fitness or any kind of things around our life that would help us to be healthier, but like still like be good in our job, or even like improve for our career. So it's kind of like it's a blog that's kind of more focused on career-driven women, because I also like wanted to focus more on women first, because I mean I am a woman, and like I find there's a lot of lack of information specifically for women. A lot of studies, right? They're mostly done on men, and so I'm just like trying to put more resources together that would be helpful for women. Yeah.
Amazing. No, amazing. I must say that I time to time kind of visit your blog and see, nice articles. So great job there.
Thank you.
Coming back to your, decision of doing a postdoctoral research in US. So, I mean, Germany has one of the best research infrastructures, and I mean, so does US. So what was your motivation to move to the US?
So initially it was not really a motivation to go to the US. So I mean, I did an internship during I think I was doing my master's in Boston, and I really liked the time being apart, like being in a different culture, being in a different environment, working with different people together. And I really appreciated that. So when I then I always said like, I want to go back to Germany to finish my do my PhD. But then after my PhD, I would want to have my postdoc phase to be abroad again. And have that experience, because it's different. It just challenges in different ways, and it also gives you just learn more about people and like how to communicate with your colleagues, and like building different teams, because like they're just different cultures, like, and it just I mean, it does challenge you, but also then you learn a different language, and it just gives you a lot. Like I really appreciated both times to go abroad. But the reason and why I actually ended up doing my internship in Boston was that I was talking to my PhD supervisor, like at that time it was my master supervisor. Like I did my master as well in the same laboratory. And I was like, well, like, I mean, I wanna go abroad, like do like a long internship for like 3 months. Like, do you have any collaborators, like, like that would be interested to like exchange? Because I mean, and then he was like, oh, I know some people in the US, like in Boston. I think he said something about Barcelona or something. He gave me like a few options, and I was like, oh, I like Boston. I mean, I've been like one time in the US for like a language school, but like I was like, I mean, Boston sounds interesting. I was like, I want to go. I mean, if I can go far away, then like Europe, I mean, yeah, I'm down for that. So, and then that's how like, but I did my internship there for like 3 months. I made very good contacts, and they really appreciated my work there. So that's kind of how I was very interested in US. And then once I finished my PhD, I just like, reached out to my supervisor at the time. So she was a postdoc doing my internship there. And then, so yeah, I kind of reached out and was like, hi, I mean, I see what you're building your lab on. I mean, I'm working on the same proteins doing my PhD. Like, would you be interested, like, to like chat about like possibilities to just, go abroad and work as a postdoc for you? So that's how the US actually came
So
in.
wow. So clearly you like challenges, and tell us, I mean, of course, when you move abroad, you have many challenges, apart from, the work thing. So what have been, your biggest challenges that you face, in the US as a researcher, and how do you overcome them? Because it's also very important for others, to kind of be aware of the challenges that they might face, moving from one country to another, so perhaps you can highlight them.
um I mean, I think like the biggest challenge that we're not really specific to being a researcher. It was just really like the move between two countries. Because for me, like I don't have any family. I didn't come with friends over here. I just came by myself to the US. And it's like it's a difference to just doing an internship than really moving to a different country. Because it starts with like getting your social security numbers, getting your phone, getting an apartment, like getting furniture, getting everything running. And I think like the first 3 months were like very challenging to just, because for opening a bank account, you need to have your social security number. But like for having actually a phone number, you need to have a bank account. And like it was kind of the circle where like everything depended on like one thing. And you were like trying to move forward to you need to also the bank account for getting your first payment, right? Or you want to have the first payment to actually pay your apartment. So but like for me, I kind of was very lucky that I got very quickly my social security number. So I luckily just was waiting for just a week, and so I could like start doing these other things. Because I mean, I don't know if you know, but I came like literally 3 months before the pandemic started. So I like once I just had everything running. I had like my social securities, I had my bank accounts, I had my phone number, I had my apartment. I was like, yeah. And then the pandemic hit, and like everything was shut down. Yeah, but I think that was like the most challenging thing, because like you're apart from your family, right? You're on your own, so you are like, and then you have a 9-hour time difference. It's not like you can like, if you struggle, you can't just like call home and it's like, hey, you know, this and X, Y, Z happened. Like they're probably like sleeping, and you're like, or you can't even reach them, right? So I was just like I underestimated that. I really underestimated the challenging on starting completely new in a different country. So I should have better prepared this. But I mean, looking back, I made it. Definitely made me like someone like, oh yeah, I mean, I can start over. Like I know what is coming, right? But I'm a strong person, so I can do that. The one thing I didn't even expect it was like the different tax systems, right? So like the German tax system versus US tax system, and like they're different, and like I was not really prepared for what's gonna happen because I was like having a lot of stocks in Germany, and then once you change your tax residency after, I mean, with some visas you are like protected for like 1 or 2 years, depends on like when you come in and whatever. But like so like then my banks were like, well, like we can't keep you. You're not a US resident, so we have to quit the contract because we don't want to report to the US now. So and then I also had to like ship all my stocks really like to the US. And so I would like to recommend everyone who's just wants to go to the US, even like for like more than half a year, and might change their tax residency, to really just talk to like your tax advisor and like actually get some information what it means to just change your tax residency. So because it can be very challenging. But like I feel like that were like my biggest challenges, because not really like as a scientist, because I mean I worked in the Max Planck Institute for lung and heart research. We had a lot of international people working there already, so I got already exposed into like working with different nationalities, working like a very competitive team. So then transitioning to Fred Hutch, it was very familiar for me. So obviously there you really have to talk English, so there was no one that can talk German. But like other than that, there were not really challenging as a researcher when you transition from a PhD to I think my supervisor really prepared me very well for that transition.
Wow, that's amazing. And apart from that, Stephanie, how was like the social life different in US than Germany? Because of course in Germany, you're born and brought up there, so you have a lot of friends here, right? But when you move to a new country, you have to build relationship like right from scratch. So how was that? How did you tackle that,
I mean, so the first kind of once I got my life starting in the US, I first started to connect with like there was other Germans, also like other German researchers. So when I got my first introduction to our career development guide, like she was saying like, oh, we have this German ambassador here in the facility, so he is leading like I think it was a monthly like beer happy hour where like all German researchers collect and like talk, and it was mainly also sponsored by I don't remember. I will have to look it up. Like it was not the DAD. It was I was a connection to the DFG, and then I don't remember the name exactly.
No problem. No problem. Yeah.
But like it was kind of like they were like so the German foundations were trying to stay in contact with the academics in the US. GAIN, sorry, GAIN, it's like GAIN, so I think German academics in international something like that.
Yeah. It's
But
one
like so like
German
people were like
organization. Yeah.
like Germany were trying to stay in contact with like their like researchers approach to like recruit them back one time when they're ready. So that was a very good organization. So they we would just meet like once a month, and they connect and like talk about research or plans to go back, or like because there were people like different stages in their career. Some have been like longer, some have been there like shorter, and you just could like ask them like like, hey, how you dealt with like getting a bank account. Like, did you struggle as I did, right? And like everybody was like, oh my God, yeah, it was such a pain in the ass. Sorry, cut that out.
So you, yeah,
it
definitely.
was such a pain. So and yeah, so but like yeah, so that's kind of how I started getting my first contacts, right? The problem then was like obviously pandemic hit, like there were not much with like getting outside and like actually meeting new friends. So we kind of like stayed in contact with like the network. So we would just meet on I think we did Zoom meetings or something like once a month. We just met and chit chatted about our lives and like how we doing and connected virtually. So that was the only option. And then I think when it was towards more the end of the summer, I think when like cases got a little lower and you could go outside, or like you're gonna keep your distance and like had your mask on, and like that's how like you met. I mean, we allowed to have like what I think it was like 5 or 7 people in your bubble, right? Like
Yeah.
you were not allowed to talk more than this number, like so and then it's like when you like once in a while like someone got introduced into your life and then like you made this connection, or it was very slow, to be honest. Like my network was mostly like the people I knew from the German network. And then slowly, like over the last 2 3 years is then when you just, when things got a little easier, like you met friends, and then you're like, oh, you're a very interesting person, you got to connect and then build another relationship there. Or that's kind of how I did. Like for me, it was very, very slow because I was not really having good options to go out or like connect to the world.
Wow, amazing. No, no, amazing. And was there like a, I'm sure like you were already used to international environment, but there are like some German food habits or the beer, or I don't know what you missed about Germany, because US is different, right? Like there's a lot of cultural difference. There's like the beer is totally different, right? So how did you cope with that?
um, so when every American makes fun of me, I'm not a big beer fan.
Thank God.
So they're like, "Oh, you're German, like let's have a beer." I was like, "No." So I'm like more like a wine person. So like, and here like in Washington or California, here like big wineries, like you have a lot of access to like wine. So that was good for me. But
Wow.
I was like struggling with like, like I learned certain recipes in Germany that I couldn't do here because we don't have the ingredients yet. And or like bread, like the bread is like not as it is in Germany.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Germany is known for the breads, right? So
I know, and so and like even like variation of potatoes we have in Germany.
absolutely.
And yeah, so this were a couple of things. So like food wise, I have to readjust. And like, I mean, I found some good bread alternatives, but like
So, you,
it's not the same. It's not the same.
so I mean, whenever you travel to Germany, I'm sure you pack your bags, with enough supplies, huh?
Well, I think you can't like bring too much like food. Like you can just like do like certain traits or like, but I don't know if you're allowed to bring flour, but yeah, so I definitely had to readjust on that. And then one thing I just find very surprising is like, like in Germany you can like open the windows inside. It's
Yes.
not a thing here. It's not a thing here.
So is the window is outside or how's it?
No, you just slide them up and down, or you kind of
Oh,
use a little like thing to just like open them a little like bit to the outside, but like you can't like really like open fold the windows as we are
oh man,
used
when
in
I was,
Germany.
I can totally relate to that because when I came to Germany, for me, I was like, hey, I think I broke my window because in Germany, you have this tilt, right?
Yeah,
Of the windows
yeah.
and so I mean, I can relate to that.
Yeah, because
It's
I was like in like springtime, I was like, how do I clean my windows? Like they look like horrible. How do I clean them from the outside, right? I mean, everybody has here like window cleaner like services.
yeah.
But I was like, when you're Germany, like everybody, you just like open the window, like clean it from the inside and outside, and then you're done.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and then like so like a few things like like you realize here and there that are just like different, but you get used to it. Just like not the bread.
Amazing. No, no, that's fantastic to hear. So, I mean, you adapted well, clearly, right? So, if one wants to kind of go to US, you would always encourage, hey, that take that challenge, and they have the support system from also from the German government and foundations, to kind of support postdoctoral researchers abroad, right? So that's good to hear. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you even have like social groups, right? Here's like Facebook has a lot of social groups. Like there's, for instance, a group called Germans in Seattle,
mhm.
and you can connect with like your own background, so that's very nice. But you also, I mean, you don't want to like stick in your own little group of Germans, right? You want to like get out and like
Sure,
meet new
yeah.
people, like because like I mean Americans are like they're kind of different, and if you compare a German, like they're very like reserved, and it takes the time to like open up, but then like they're very like welcoming and like you're the friend. I hear like I feel like Americans are like very open and very sweet like at the beginning, so you're kind of very like confused with that at the beginning. He's like, oh my God, like he calls you, like the first time meeting him or her, like he was like, oh yeah, yeah, you're my friend, right? And you're like, what? you know?
Even
But like it,
no, no, absolutely, absolutely. I had the same feeling and same kind of. Also, like when you go to restaurants, people are more friendly in the US, right?
oh
So
yeah, oh yeah, 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 definitely. More open, more helpful. They smile like it's a much nicer environment to go here into a restaurant. I have to admit that.
and also in the supermarkets, I think the service and stuff like that is very different when you compare with Europe and US. I think Americans have this sense of what do you say, like customer satisfaction and service and stuff like that, right? So
Yeah.
that was a good change also for me to experience. I'm like, wow. Yeah, coming back to our conversation, tell us something that is very exciting in your field of cancer right now, and what do you see as a future of life sciences, particularly, pancreatic cancer research? How do you see it? And the impact of AI and all that stuff? Tell us something more
Mhm.
about, you know.
Yeah. So the very exciting things that are happening in the pancreatic cancer field right now is even like we still have a survival rate of pancreatic cancer patients that is 12%. Like after like in the last couple of years, we actually doubled it. Like it used to be just 6% of the pancreatic cancer patients that would survive like the next 5 years. Now we made it to like 11 or 12%, which is still low, but it's like it's a minor improvement, right? And we have learned a lot about the different pancreatic cancer subtypes. So like since we know this, a lot of more treatment options are in clinical studies, um, which is very exciting. There are a lot of preclinical studies. Like for instance, Fred Hutchinson is going to start soon a clinical trial using transcription inhibitors. So our lab has found that the basal PDA subtype is very sensitive to transcription inhibition, whereas the classical does not even respond to it. Like they don't care. So, but like knowing this and like understanding the different subtypes and how we can now treat them, I think this is a major progress that we have in the pancreatic cancer field. And then there's also like I think it was kind of last year they have developed now a new KRAS mutant inhibitor. So pancreatic cancer, like or like lung cancer, is like a KRAS G12D driven tumor. So and last year there have been my progress into like developing a drug that actually only targets the mutant version of KRAS and not the wild type mutant. So now we are like we also got access to this drug, so we are very excited to test this in our different model systems. But again, like the problem here is what we think is going to happen is that from previous studies, we know that the basal PDA subtype is independent of KRAS mutation. So it has been shifted away from the dependence on KRAS. So it found different ways to make it grow faster. So because there was a study about it, so they found like when they just knocked down KRAS mutation in these patient in these tumor cells, like they didn't care, they didn't die, they just kept growing. Whereas the classical PDA is very dependent on this KRAS mutation. So, I mean, we still have to see how the field will develop, but like we have already kind of this in mind. So it's suggesting again, like this drug is specific for a certain PDA subtype. And I think that's where the future of pancreatic cancer really needs to go, is like precision oncology. So we really have to, I know the Fred Hutch does it already. So all patients that come in will get a biopsy, and then we sequence them. So we are able to we take samples, so we develop organoids and like mouse models and make cell lines from these patients, and then really like study them in depth and classify, is this patient like more basal PDA subtype versus more classical PDA subtype, and then we can select based on what we identify from this tumor, like which is the direction of treatment we want to apply to this patient. And I think that will like significantly improve the survival of these patients. But what we are still lacking is pancreatic cancer is identified mostly like too late. Like pancreatic cancer spreads, builds metastasis and spreads very early, even before you actually have a full-grown tumor. So we definitely need to improve diagnosis and finding early diagnosis markers. Because now the options to screen for pancreatic cancer is either imaging, so like a CT or MRI. You can do ultrasound on, and then you can also do a blood test. But I think the blood test is very, the marker is very not really specific. So like so most facilities diagnose with like imaging, and you need to have a certain size of a tumor already in able to detect the tumor. So we definitely need to improve on like diagnosis of pancreatic cancer, because even like even family history or like just accounts for like a low percentage of actually pancreatic cancer patients. So the main drivers of pancreatic cancer is really just like pancreatitis, diabetes, obesity, and these kinds of factors. So that these are factors that really stress the pancreas to then drive for the selection of clones that have the KRAS mutation. So so we definitely have to work more on that. And I think I went to the AACR Pancreatic Cancer Conference end of last year, and there were already some talks about AI implemented research. And I think it's very interesting. So these people were talking about that they have started to use AI to feed with like patient information, screens and everything. And so what they identified was that AI was much better with patient care. So because the AI was like, hey, this person has been this much amount of time here, so it needs to be screened, or like I identified this marker, so you have to do X, Y, Z. So it seemed to that AI assistance, like in patient care, significantly improved patient care. So yeah, so that's kind of a thing I think people start to go like having AI look at data and like screen for information that then is like, oh, you should look at this patient. He has XYZ. Like he might have cancer, or he might have diabetes. So look at this. Like make sure it's gonna show up on like for a screen. Like like these kind of things seems to be very by using AI and like outperform humans, unfortunately. But I mean
it's the creation of humans, right? just
Yeah,
a
but
bit more powerful and intelligent, right? So
yeah, I mean, I can't say where the fear about AI comes from. Like, but I mean, I also like was very interested in artificial intelligence, or I mean, before we didn't call it AI, we called it machine learning. So,
yeah.
like,
And
like we
before
were
that, it
the
was all, it was what do you call neural networks, So from neural networks it came to machine learning. And now because the system is growing, right? So it's AI is like the big thing in town, right? So yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I say where the fear comes from, but on the other side, I think it is another tool that we should be able to use and evolve, and just be careful about it. Like
I mean,
I may
it's
also do mistakes like as a human does, right? But I think AI is just more consistent because
I
it
mean,
doesn't get tired.
as you said, we have to be careful, like with say nuclear reactors, for example, right? So you can of course harness it for benefit, but it can also go wrong, like if under the control of a bad person, right? So there's always that, like, a balance to use science for the benefit and not for the harm, right? So that's always but I think one interesting point that you made is like, okay, going and attending conferences. And I think, that's one of the best ways to kind of keep an update. But because our listeners are many PhD students, master students, bachelor students, so any advice for them on how one can keep track of the latest advancement in, say, cancer research or, scientific research in general? What would be your
Mhm.
advice? Mhm.
So my advice would be you can the different field that interested you, you can set Google alerts, right? You can tell, oh, send me an email if like these specific keywords came up in like this publication. So then I want to be informed that, you can say pancreatic cancer as like one of the keywords, right? And then Google alert will send you an information like, oh, this came up about pancreatic cancer. You might have to be a little more specific, but that would be one option to do. Then the other option is like you kind of want to follow like good journals that publish in your expertise field that you want to stay, right? So there's some journals that are more pharmacology driven. There are some journals that are more like molecular biology driven. Some cancers are like some journals are more like really clinical, like they just publish like a lot of studies or kind of depends on your expertise. And then you can subscribe to these journals, right? So you can get them to send you the next collection of manuscripts into your email account, right? And so that's a good option. Or I mean, if you don't want to have the subscription, you can always like, go to any of the journals, write in your keywords, and then select for the latest publications. So it's a more like an active research, but that like looking at very good journals in your interest field, like gives you a good information resource. And then if you like more into looking at what's happening in the pharma field, like what's our new innovations, um, there's this it's called Fierce. So you can Fierce has different subcategories of like Fierce Farmer or Fierce like in general. I don't remember all of the categories, but like they have like weekly or bi-weekly emails that they send out where they summarize what is new in the field. They give you the links to the specific articles on. It's free, like so that's how you can get the news updates in Farmer or any other field. So these are kind of the ones that I use, but it might be like specific for each. I don't know if like chemistry has a different, us probably has a different kind of like subset, but that's kind of like for biology. It's very useful.
Awesome, awesome. And what would be your advice to, say, biology students who are kind of, considering a career as a researchers, and what are the most important things they should keep in mind while they pursue this path?
So what I didn't know before I started to work in research was that you have this image about a scientist. I think you're like, scientists standing in a lab, like doing like Maya progress, like identifying all of these great things and like, curing cancer. And but like when you actually work as a scientist, it is years of work. It's just like the success is just not there like this. It is you have an idea, you test your idea and you fail, and then depending on how your idea is, right, you have to optimize the system you work in, right? Because just because it just didn't work doesn't mean it's not true. It might be just the system that you selected was wrong, right?
Absolutely.
And so most of the work you do fails. And it can be so frustrating. It can be so frustrating and disappointing and questioning your abilities as a scientist. I was not aware of that. And I think a lot of researchers, especially doing your PhD, you struggle with that a lot. And then you have to be able to find a balance to that. So you have to have something in your life that brings you a lot of joy, like some sports or like hobbies or anything that you really need to just balance the frustration doing, like doing work as a PhD student. Once you kind of have, doing a PhD, the PhD is there to show you and train you how to do research, how to get to this phase of just like failing and failing and failing and then optimizing, and then, oh, finally it's working, right? And then even like sometimes, I mean, it too, right? Like there's like, you just do one experiment, fails, you do it 2 months later, it works. Like, and you're like, what was different, right? But it might be just because before it was winter, it was like 1 degree colder than in summer. And now in summer, you just reached better temperature, you better conditions, and it just works, right? And you just like, are you questioning yourself the last 3 months, like why didn't it work, right? So that's I think that's one of the biggest challenges you have to deal with as a scientist, to work in the unknown. You don't know where to go. You don't know if what you do is right or it actually is wrong. That's why it fails. And yeah, so it's a struggle for a lot of PhD students that also finally can lead into the PhD student just giving up their PhD, because it's just very challenging, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, I mean, perseverance is one thing that you recommend, that, if somebody wants to be a researcher, be ready, be prepared, have that patience, and
Mm-hmm.
persevere. So don't consider yourself just a failure because the experiment didn't work, because we all can relate to that, right? So that's a pretty good advice, Stephanie. Another question that I had, and you as a strong woman, somebody I know since decades, I think you would be the apt person to answer this. When we start, we see a lot of women in the field of, especially biological research. But then when you go on the top, they're just missing. They are not representative of, the amount of women who started in the field of biology. They are just missing on the top. Like, and what do you think is the reason, and how can this be improved?
I think a big problem with women in science is the issue with family and work. Uh, I think it is a very big problem in academia, because in academia you have these time pressures, right? So your postdoc has to be quick. You have to be the best to obtain like the funding for the next round to actually get your PI position, and then you have always this pressure, and this does not align with having a family.
Absolutely.
And I think a big issue also comes, what I realized is with uh, women in science in Germany. It's like Germany is still like has this belief like, oh, the woman should stay home, take care of the kid till like it reaches a certain age that then it can go to kindergarten and like to school, right? But as a scientist, you can't stay at home for 2 3 years.
No.
You're out of the field. Like you miss on all the research progress. People won't know you if you don't produce papers, right? And I think that's a big struggle for women, like.
No, I totally can relate. I mean, not relate, but can agree on that, because I mean, somebody was saying that, women's, say, family peak, like, the pressure of the families to have kids and stuff like that, and the career peak coincides so much. So that's an additional burden on the, on the woman. And science is such that you cannot, you know, take a big break, right? Although there are so many career reentry programs designed for women, but there's still so many challenges, right? So, and how
Yeah,
can, and Stephanie, how can one overcome that? Like, if you have any solutions or stuff like that,
I mean, yeah, I'm kind of struggling with that too. Like I'm thinking a lot about this too, and you can't really overcome that problem if you believe you can stay at home, or like be a stay-at-home mom, right? Because I have like the few PIs I have seen that are women and having kids and several kids are women that have nannies, or like they stay home for a certain time, and then they will have support. They have like the mom helping them out, right, during the day. Then they will have maybe a nanny, and then they will have daycare, which I feel like is very has still a very negative view in Germany. Like as for I remember like one colleague struggling with that because she got her second child during her postdoc, right? And like she got very negative feedback from other people like around us, like, why are you not staying at home and taking care of a kid? And she was like, well, I'm coming from a different country. I just have a fellowship. They just allow me to take whatever time off, and otherwise they just cut off the money, and I'm stuck here, and like I have another kid and a husband here, like, and we need food, right? And I need to finish to actually like move on, right? And so I think the only way to get around is that having really someone that helps you, like having a partner that takes care of, but and then like someone has to stay at home. Like
yeah,
either the
good
man stays
support.
at home and takes care, or the woman stays at home, or you will have a family member that has the time, which still, like, I mean, at the age where, like, I get children, like my mom is still working and getting her own salary, right? So it's not that she just can say, oh yeah, I'm gonna stay home here for like half a year, help you with your raising your children. This is not working. And
Absolutely,
so
absolutely.
so and that's like the only option you have. You have maybe like some time where your husband can stay home, take care of the kid. You can stay home, take care of the kid. Then your mom can jump in and help take care of the kid. But this like covers less than a year, maybe. I mean, it depends. Like in US, like maternity leave is still like what, 8 weeks. Like I mean that is it's like different than in Germany. But like even having in Germany, there's not much time. It can kind of kill your career if you're not kind of somehow having a good network of being involved, right? Because all of the a lot of the even like the uni PIs, they're just limited for 5 years 5-year contracts. So if you're from like 5 years, you stay 2 years at home and you can't publish in this time, you're out. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's a brutal system. No, no, I totally. So, I mean, the take-home message is that having a, say, the understanding partner and a good support system, that might help, right?
yeah.
For
I mean, don't like nail me down on this, but like since I like think about these things more and more, I kind of like wanna want my career is a little bit further ahead, and I do have a stable position. But I kind of like thinking about like kind of building like a foundation where like they would support like helping you paying for like someone like a nanny,
Mhm.
or like just helping at least the women that's trying to stay in science and want to have a career there to financially support them. Because I mean, even as a postdoc, the amount of salary you make is just nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, like you
can't
can't
afford it,
pay a
nanny.
nanny. Yeah, you can't even afford it. Even like if you want to, like unless your partner does make a significant more money, you can't afford even that option, right? So, and I kind of like thinking more and more about this, and it's kind of like I felt like that's kind of like something that we are lacking. We are lacking on like supporting women in science, helping them raising a child while having a career, and the only way to do this is like at some point you need to have someone that takes care of your kid during the day,
Absolutely.
and
I
it's
mean,
expensive.
that's a great point. I mean, I wonder why such foundations have not been created. There is a great need of such foundations, and it's up to the women to kind of group and kind of start something on that line. I think it's a great idea, Stephanie. Um, so you are now, just for our audience, I know that, postdoctoral training is the most, say, crucial part of training when it comes to kind of your career building, right? So, and you might have an idea of either becoming a professor or move to corporate world, or, so many other options you have. So what are the resources that one might look for guidance? Can you name a few career guidance resources that you use for yourself, just to educate our audience?
So Fred Hutch has an awesome postdoc and graduate student organization. So they have a lot of training programs depending on which career you want to go, and train you, give you advice, like helping you building a network and so on. But I mean, this is specific for the institution I am at, but like bigger institutions, and I think that's also something like a graduate student who's trying to find a laboratory where they want to go should look for. Like they should look, how is the career support system in the specific institution I want to do my PhD in. Because also all of these organizations, they stay in contact with their alumni, right? So they can like connect you to someone that works at that specific place where you want to go later, and it's like, how you can reach out. It's like, how's the working culture? How do you feel like this company or this institute promotes you in your career, right? So you have this big of a network. So I think it's a very big and important factor to consider. But then there are also career sites. So one that I started to look at is the one from Science, like it's the AAS. It's called My IDP, so My Individual Development Plan or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I think this plan there's a lot of questions you can answer, so it kind of like tries to gauge what will be your interest later. So like which direction you want to go, right? Because it's not only academia with pharma, there's also like, medical science liaison, there's also like that kind of stuff, different ways you can go. And with these plans actually kind of help you to figure out what are your interests, because sometimes you don't even know, right? Like, I mean, you just have been only in academia, you don't really know what's out there, because you don't only have to go to like farmer, you can also go to the government, right? So or you can do like something completely crazy and just use your knowledge, like the skills that you learned during your PhD to just go to something completely different, or start your own business, right? I mean, if you
Absolutely.
develop a cool technique, just develop a business out of it. So so these sites, the one, My IDP, that I use, has all of these questions. It gives you also the background information of each of the jobs. You can read about it a little bit more, and then you kind of can create your own plan. And it's kind of like, I think it's every year it kind of checks in with you. So it kind of like, yeah, you should look at your progress, like how have you performed in the last year, or something like that. And I think that's something. I mean that My ADP, I think it is free, and I think is accessible worldwide. I think it's not limited to US. So that's definitely one thing that people could try. There might be also different sites. I'm just not aware. I just know about My IDP. Or let's really like sit down and think about like what are your interests, like which kind of cancer, or like what kind of methods do you want to learn, right? Because it's very important for a researcher to learn certain methods.
So, Stephanie, finally, tell us more about your hobbies. What do you do when you're not in the lab?
So for me, like personal fitness is very important. So I try to go in the mornings to the gym before I go to work. So I like lifting weights, and I do like doing spin class or some people would call it cycle class as well. So it's a stationary bike, loud music, having a trainer and a group, and like, you know, doing high interval training. Then I love obviously blogging. So I love reading about new studies or like investigating how I can improve my work-life balance or like career, like how to become better in, I don't know, improving my mindset or like any kind of things that, like, you know, help you grow as a person, like communication and all of these kind of things. So I love reading a lot of books related to that, but I also love listening to a lot of podcasts, listening to people that have been on a path that are like similar to me, but like further ahead. So how have they struggled? What have they done? Like, how did they fix certain things? So literally what you provide for younger researchers as well. And then just like, you know, like cooking, going out, like exploring new places. And yeah, that's kind of how I felt like the bit of time that is left during the day,
Wow.
because the days are way too short.
Wow, that's so. We'll end the podcast on that positive note. Thank you so much, Stephanie, for sharing your insights with us today. It's been pleasure talking with you, and to the audience, thank you for tuning into Biology Career Insights. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast to get the latest episode delivered straight to your device. See you next time. Bye bye. Bye, Stephanie.
Hi. Thank you so much for
Bye.
having me.
Most welcome. And looking forward to doing another one soon sometimes in future.
Yeah, would be great.
Yes.
I love it.
And best wishes to your future endeavors, Stephanie.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Welcome.
much.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.